Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
We are in peak travel season, except this summer feels different. With ongoing tensions and tariff talks with the U.S., are Canadians staying closer to home? Is the Canada Strong Pass, which was rolled out a month ago, making any difference in domestic plans? On the flip side, are Americans still crossing the border? And what about other international travelers? Canada currently seen as a key destination. I'm Melanie Ng, and in this episode of The Big Story, we check in on the industry with newly released data. Joining me for this conversation is Joe Amati, Senior Executive Director of Global Market and Brand Intelligence with Destination Canada. Joe, appreciate you joining us.
Melanie, really happy to be here and really excited to talk about my favorite passion, travel and Canada.
Very good. Okay. It is an understatement to say that there have been a lot of changes within the industry, probably a lot of fluctuating data in the last, let's say 5 years when we go back to the pandemic. But let's begin with the newest numbers. Just last week, Statistics Canada released some tourism data. A lot of it had to relate to what is happening with Canada and US and our relationship of crossing the borders by land, by air. When you were combing through all of that data, what did you notice?
Yeah, great question. And it's something, of course, that we pay a lot of attention to. And at Destination Canada, just to sort of introduce who we are to you and your listeners, our role is to serve as Canada's marketing arm out to the world. And in doing that, we promote our brand, we build our brand in 9 international countries, and we also do a lot of work to understand what's the data, what are the insights, like what's really happening with travel and tourism within Canada. So this is something we're absolutely keeping our eye on as part of our look into arrivals, which is what you're focusing on, into sentiment, what do people actually think about Canada, into bookings. What does the future look like for Canada? Does it look optimistic? So looking at the arrivals specifically that you spoke about, we're seeing that as well. It's been a volatile few months. I don't think I'm saying anything anyone doesn't feel. And we are seeing arrivals are declining on an overall basis coming into Canada. That's true. The nuance, of course, is always in the stories. You start to really understand what's behind those arrivals numbers. The numbers that StatsCan produces, it's based on any human being crossing the border up into Canada. And what that means is that includes Americans who are traveling up to Canada. It includes travelers from overseas markets coming to Canada, but it also includes Canadians coming back home. And when you deconstruct the numbers, you start to see a bit of a different story, which I'll just go into a little bit if you'll indulge me. So what we see is we do see fewer Canadians coming back from the US. They're traveling to the US less than they have in past. We've seen the headlines. We've heard all the talk about that. But they are coming back from overseas markets more. So they're more often choosing to travel overseas or travel within Canada. That's where Canadians are traveling right now, less so in the US, still traveling a lot to the US. Coming from the US specifically, because we know the US is our largest international market. I'll mention for context, our international market represents $31 billion of revenue for Canada in 2024 alone. So there's a lot of interest and importance to tourism as this economic engine. And focusing on the US as a big part of that, we have seen those land arrivals are down, as you've referenced. So fewer Americans are driving up into Canada for trips. The nuance there again is that it's primarily day trips that we're seeing big drops in. So this is Americans living in border towns primarily. They're driving across the border to Windsor, to Niagara Falls, maybe to grab coffee with friends or family, maybe to do some cross-border shopping of their own before heading back. That we've been seeing declining. But where we're feeling optimistic with the numbers is when you look at overnight arrivals by air from the US. So these are the arrivals, they're flying in, they're staying overnight, which means they're staying in a hotel, they're buying dinners, they're buying breakfasts, they're doing things within Canada. Those numbers are actually flat compared to last year. So that gives us a lot of optimism.
Okay, so this is good news. I mean, I assume where our dollar is sitting right now, that is helping bring in some neighbors from the south.
There's many factors, and value. We do look at perceptions of value for Canada, and we do see across the globe perceptions of value as strong. And geopolitical and economic conditions are definitely going to be driving that. It's not something that we will necessarily, Destination Canada, promote, because we prefer to promote more of the authenticity of Canada, the rich experiences you get, the open people, the inclusive nature of our culture. Not so much on the value.
Joe, let me ask you about the relationship between politics and tourism. As noted, the last few months, we saw a new administration in the U.S. that changed a lot of Canadian sentiment. I'd say there was a lot of elbows up narrative here on this side of the border, and a lot of people saying, "You know what? I think I want to travel within Canada." Perhaps they had those destinations in mind in the U.S. and they said, "I'm going to flip it." We saw in the last month the Canada Strong Pass come out. It's about a month in where there have been free or discounted rates to travel to various locations to explore within your own backyard. Have you seen any data that has come out just yet when it comes to that pass and how well it's doing?
We have. So the Canada Strong Pass, really exciting initiative put on by the government of Canada. And as you say, Melanie, it does provide access, either free or discounted access to museums, to parks, to rail travel. And it really is around getting Canadians out to explore their own backyards, to stay in Canada and travel. And benefits of this are manifold. One is it helps Canadians as well as international travelers, I should mention. It is open to international travelers as part of our inclusive nature of welcoming the world. But it really helps to address the desire Canadians are expressing of wanting to explore their own backyard, while also helping to really drive affordability of traveling these destinations, which is a really exciting initiative. And so far, it is around a month old, as you say. And so far, the website, which I encourage you all to go listen to view, pardon me, has had about 700,000 visits to date. So clearly, there's a lot of interest in the Canada Strong Pass, and it makes us happy as it will be getting more Canadians out exploring their own backyards.
Joe, do the visits translate to people actually using the Canada Strong Pass, or is that just clicks and interest to learn more?
I think the data's not out yet around how much use has there been in applying the Canada Strong Pass to these destinations, but it is something we'll be looking at as the data comes through. How much did it actually drive? Anecdotally, we do hear stories around the interest is driving with Canadians really leveraging it to go travel in their own backyards.
I'm curious. There was a report, it came out a couple weeks ago that talked about European travelers and how many of them are flocking to Canada as a key destination. Perhaps they were looking to the US previously and now saying, okay, let's go here, specifically to Ontario. What are some of the things that you are seeing when it comes to that data?
So, as I mentioned earlier, tourism is really big business for Canada, and $31 billion of that comes from international travelers, which includes, partly the U.S., but partly rest of the world. We focus specifically at Destination Canada on promoting in 9 international markets, several of which are in Europe. So we're always paying attention to what are we seeing coming from these overseas markets, and we are seeing similar trends as you've mentioned, where we are seeing an increased interest from our European markets to come and visit Canada. Come and visit Canada exclusively, not as part of a joint trip US-Canada. They want to come in and visit Canada. Their sentiment for visiting Canada is up. They're actually booking flights to come to Canada. We're seeing that's positive and up year on year. So we know the actual behavior is there. And more than that, we're actually hearing just the strength of the brand within these markets. So a study was recently released a few months ago by one of an independent research agency. And what they showed is among European travelers who are reconsidering where to go for the summertime, 56% of them are choosing to come to Canada. So that helps us understand just how strong our brand is, helps understand especially how strong our brand is from our European markets. The Destination Ontario study referenced, they definitely showed a lot of that as well, is that Europeans are choosing Canada, and specifically we've got a high affinity for Ontario and to come visit cities like Toronto as an example. So definitely seeing a lot of excitement and interest coming out of our European markets.
Let's backtrack a little bit and just talk about how important the tourism industry is to our economy, especially now when we are, trying to figure out the numbers. To be quite honest, with this new government, how big of an impact does when you see the ebbs and flows of tourism when it comes to us, where we're staying domestically or those travelers who are coming to us, how big of an impact does that have on the overall picture?
Tourism has a large economic impact on Canada. It may surprise you to hear that tourism is actually the second largest service export for Canada, and it's actually a bigger industry than automotive manufacturing and then mining. And that always blows my mind when I hear that. Tourism is $130 billion in revenues in 2024 alone. And of that, 98 billion was from domestic travelers. So that's Canadians traveling within Canada. And 31 billion was from international travelers. Those are people coming from outside of Canada, coming to visit, bring new money into our economy, which really helps to grow our economy.
What is the sentiment? You said that you deal with a number of different markets, international markets as well. What is the sentiment when people hear Canada? What are the associations that they feel?
They feel lots of things about Canada from international markets. They appreciate our authentic natural beauty. They appreciate the kindness, the openness of people. They appreciate the safety of us as a tourism destination. And beyond just hearing that anecdotally, which we hear a lot in our research, we actually see hard numbers that support that. So an independent research agency called Reputation Lab conducted a study recently looking at the reputation of 60 countries around the world. And factors that go into that are things like natural beauty, good people, safety, the economy, health, and so forth. And Canada, in the most recent study, was tied for first place in that study. First place, tied with Switzerland, which is a really good company to have for that study, but tied for first place. So not only do we hear it anecdotally, but we see it in the hard numbers as well. We're always looking at brand research. What does the brand, Canada's tourism brand, mean to people? Canada's always up there among the top brands in the world. And why does that matter? That really matters because we know from a lot of the same work that a strong tourism brand will lead to strong tourism receipts. So tourists spending more money, choosing Canada more often and spending more money. It will lead to an increase in foreign direct investment, which brings new money into our economy. And it will lead to an increase in talent attraction, which directly relates to bringing jobs into the industry. So the brand is so important for tourism, and Canada is absolutely crushing it. We are having a moment right now. The world's eyes are on Canada. The world loves Canada right now.
Really interesting. It really is truly this ecosystem, as you said, all feeding into one another. We talked a little bit about the last few months, as you've noted, where you've seen some changes. How about the last few years? Has the industry bounced back completely from the pandemic, or is there still a little bit of a catch up factor?
One thing about tourism is that it is an incredibly resilient industry. We don't just look back through the past 5 years, but even going as far back as 40 years, thinking about all the ebbs and flows in the world over those 40 years, tourism continues to grow. It hit some speed bumps, of course, not to be unexpected, but it continues to grow. Looking back specifically the past few years, tourism has bounced back in that tourism revenues are more than 120% compared to 2019. Now, it's not even, of course. There are parts of Canada's tourism economy which may not quite have caught up. There are parts which are over accelerating in terms of how they've caught up. But as an overall Team Canada tourism, we are above revenues from pre-pandemic.
This is very good news. How about some other trends that you're keeping an eye on, or maybe future plans for marketing this beautiful country that we have? What is on tap for you at Destination Canada?
What's on tap for us at Destination Canada is continuing to talk about and build our brand. The strength of our brand is an authentic brand, our Canada Naturally brand. We know from a lot of our research that 65% of our target travelers are choosing locations based on the authenticity, based on the realness of that destination. And as you can imagine, in a world right now where there are deep fakes and AI and people are struggling to understand what's real, there's nothing more real than coming to Canada and seeing our beautiful multicultural cities and experiencing it, standing in the heart of downtown Toronto, heading up to the Muskokas, heading out to the Rockies, and seeing this beautiful, authentic reality. So we're really going to be spending a lot of time really promoting that around the world. And already we're seeing a lot of success with that brand campaign. We're hearing a lot of positive reactions to it.
Very good. Okay, so for our listeners, as we tie a bow on this conversation, Joe, let's say it's for Canadian listeners, we mostly have Canadian listeners, or let's say it's American listeners. What is your overarching message here when it comes to travel and traveling within or to Canada?
Overarching message is that Canada is having a moment. The world's eyes are on us. The world wants to travel to us. The Canada Strong Pass makes it ever easier to explore our parks, our museums, to take trains around the country, and the country is filling up. So book that trip soon and come and explore all that Canada has to offer.
Are you seeing bookings actually go really quickly? I mean, I know we're midway through summer, but are you seeing those trends just fly?
We are, absolutely. And we're hearing it across our industry as well. We're hearing from our partners in the hotel space. We're hearing from small and medium-sized businesses that their summers are booking up really quickly. They're having banner years. They're having record years. And they're very excited about what the summer, fall, winter, what the future looks like for tourism in Canada.
Good. Let's keep it going. Joe Amati, appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And that was The Big Story. You can send us feedback on this episode or any other episode. You can email us at hello@thebigstorypodcast.ca. You can also find us on the Seeker app or on all of your favorite podcast players. Remember, you can rate, review, follow, and share. I'm Melanie Ng. Thank you for listening.